All right, so with the introduction of Isleweaver on the 25th of June, we were given a lot of new weapons that came with Araxia, but we were also given another Incarnon weapon, that Incarnon weapon being the Thalys. The Thalys is the, I think, second heavy scythe we have been given, and this one is an Incarnon. When it comes to how you use the Thalys, I'm using it like, well, how most people use melee weapons. I'm using it as a M1 spamming influence build. It's quite nice and quite powerful because the way this one works is when you're in its Incarnon, you'll summon these like void shards that spawn on enemies, and they will deal damage as soon as you apply them again on another enemy. As you see, there's the little shards. I swing, and then on another one, they'll explode. It's very nice and very strong, especially with how it builds up its combo. That, and you could also build it for a slam build due to one of the things giving you increased jump height. I mean, look at that. I jump really, really high. I mean, look at the damage there. But obviously, these are basic enemies. What is it like when you fight an Acolyte? So I'll be back when we see an Acolyte. All right, and the Acolyte is finally going to be here. And in this case, I do also want to use some Wrathful Advance on top of everything, just to show you that the crit does indeed scale on the shards that it forms. And as you see, he dies really quickly. Now, sadly, this is another influence weapon, but there is another playstyle you can have, and I will showcase that when we get to the simulacrum, where I will showcase the two builds I have. One of them, sadly, is not finished, but it's kind of easy to tell what you would be going for. But I'll see y'all back in the simulacrum. And here we are in the simulacrum. Now, I want to talk about how the part of this weapon's Incarnon, which is embedded shards and enemies, work. See, it scales in a weird way. It kind of scales off the weapon's base stats, which is nice. It does its whole base number. And then afterwards, which ain't bad, it's like 336 and 144. Really good. It has its own crit damage multiplier at 1 times, and it can be enhanced by Wrathful Advance and Arcane Avenger, I believe. But it has a 0% at base, which is kind of eh. That's why I built it using my Wrathful Advance in mind. Blood Rush works, and each one has their own crit tier independently, so each one will do their own form of crit off the melee. So it's not bad, it's okay. But Crepuscular does not work, which is weird. I don't know why it doesn't. Now, when it comes to the evolutions, those are their own thing. For my evolutions, I have gone with Whirling Flurry for evolution 2. You could easily use Dreadful Reach, because on weapon status effects, you'll gain more range for 8 seconds, and that goes up to 20, so you get an increase in 2. So on top of everything, you can go even further with your range. I think the attack speed's necessary because this weapon is very, very slow, even with the 40% it gets from the Incarnon form. Next up is Evolution 3, where you have the options of Nimble Scythe, Echoes of Rage, and Adept Reflexes. This one is whatever you want. I think Nimble Scythe is kind of useless, so you can either go with Echoes of Rage or Adept Reflexes. I've tried both. They both feel okay. Next up is Evolution 4. Evolution 4, you have Devastating Mercy, Swift Transmute, and Vaulting Leap. This one, there's really nothing special. Swift Transmute makes it where you get your Incarnon faster. Devastating Mercy will let you knock down enemies on a ground finisher. Not necessarily good. And Vaulting Leap, this is like the Praetos, where you get that sprint speed, I believe, or slide speed. It's like that, except this one is really, really high up in the air. It's like having Zephyr's passive on every Warframe. Then finally, Evolution 4. This is where, or 5, I mean, sorry. Evolution 5 has all the best options. Sadly, only 2 of them are good. Void Splinter sounds good on paper, but sadly, it's not, due to the fact that you're using this as a melee weapon, and that negative 50% damage is really, really bad. The 100% crit chance when damaged, though, you don't feel it. You don't see it. Chain Shatter and Explosive Growth are the best options. Explosive Growth, whenever your shards grow, they'll be crit up to 3 times, and when they erupt, they'll do 2 times damage and impale enemies on the spot. If it doesn't kill them, they'll be like Ruvox. Whenever you would slam, how come it embed enemies up? That's what that does. And then Chain Shatter on heavy attacks, you'll detonate those shards, and the shards caught within the blast radius will also detonate. So you could spread them around after you melee light a lot, and then spam heavy attacks. It's based on what you build. I'll cover the 2 builds I have made, show them in the simulacrum, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on how this weapon feels overall to the other Incarnons. Now, when it comes to the build, I have a growth build and a shatter build. They're both kind of different, but the shatter one isn't complete, but I think you could figure out where it needs to go from what I have as a baseline. So the base stats are not bad. You get 336 slash, 144 puncture. You get 30% crit chance, 24% status, a 2.8 times crit multiplier, which ain't bad at all. Its dispo is really low. Its attack speed, I believe, is like 0.97 or something like that without the evolution active. And the heavy attack is a 3-hit, which is really nice. So how does the growth build work? The growth build is sadly a pretty basic build. It's an influence build. We use Gav Steel, Gav Elementalist, Weeping Wounds, and Primed Reach for more range. Conditional Overload also does not work on the shards, so sucks, but it does work everywhere else. We have the basic Viral and Electricity, and the crit damage is not bad. You could easily replace Galvanized Steel for Sacrificial Steel if you want. Then you'll have to find a mod for the crit damage. That's why I use Galv Steel. We get crit damage on melee kill. Gale Force Dawn is the only heavy scythe stance, but it's not bad. And if you wanted to, you could TennoCreate it with Dreamer's Wrath would be a pretty good option. Opportunity's Reach would also be quite nice for more range. It's up to the person. Master's Edge, it's up to you. Now, when it comes to the shatter build is pretty obvious. You're going for heavy attacks, so you'll spread it around with light attacks, then heavy attack. Spread it around with light attacks, heavy attack. Only reason Conditional Overload is there is so you can deal, well, more damage. If you want, you can take it off and replace it with something else. Same thing with Afflictions. You could probably go with another Influence build here and spam heavy attacks. Sadly, Influence doesn't spread the shards. I wish it did. Now, I'll test in the Simulacrum, and you'll get to see how it feels in a controlled setting with level 195 enemies, and then we'll go back to the back rooms and I'll give you my final thoughts on this weapon. With my Incarnon evolution, we're at 2 times, and as you see, without the Incarnon active, it still does hit quite nice and hard, but let's go ahead and activate the Incarnon and use it now. So this Incarnon, I believe, is the quickest one to go away. It's like 80 seconds and then it's gone. But how does it feel now? As you see, the crystal's already exploded. There it is. There's the crystal, and if I apply another one, they're now embedded. And then you can ground finisher. Okay, that's not a ground finisher. You can ground finisher them when that happens, but I still don't think the ground finishers are worth doing since it can get you kind of killed, but it's quite nice and quite powerful. But what about the Scaldra? Does it work well in the Scaldra? To me, it's, I don't know, you tell me. I think that works quite well. And even if you weren't building for a heavy attack build, it still does pretty good heavy attack damage. And once again, you can even use Wrathful Advance from Kalervo or similar to scale the shards with their crit damage. So for example, if I just use my Wrathful Advance from afar so I don't pull them. As you saw, there was a second explosion of crit damage. That's the crystals exploding. So they then proceed to scale and keep doing their damage. It's why this weapon is quite nice with influence. Sadly, it is another influence build, but you could do them in Afflictions build, I said, and it'd still do quite well. I'll see you back in the back rooms so I can give you my thoughts on it. Ooh, that's nice. Actually, I've never looked at the scythe that way. And I'm back in the back rooms. So with the Isleweaver release, this weapon is very nice looking and very interesting to use, as it is just an Incarnon with no Incarnon adapter. I think it is a very unique weapon to use, especially since the only other options we have for scythes are like the Chlorophyll, the Hespar, those being our only options. It's not a bad weapon at all. I think when it comes to the Incarnon tree, it's still not going to be ranked at the highest. I think the highest would still be things like the Dual Ichor, the Okina, the Hate. Those are really powerful Incarnon weapons. But the Hespar, since it is quite easy to get, just doing the missions in Isleweaver and then buying it from Dominus Thrax, it's not bad. It's actually quite nice to get. The way you can build it is very dependent on how you play, but remember, any weapon can be built to have fun. It's the whole point of playing the game. But tell me what weapons you want to see down below. I'm trying my hardest to get Raxia done. I sadly do not have the Plat 2 Rusher, but she is building because I need 2 of them. I'm sorry. But I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.